All right, guys, we're rolling. I'm pleased to welcome back Dr. Sarah Zaldivar to the Low Carb Consultant Podcast. In our first episode, which was episode 5, I believe, we explored the foundations: dopamine, metabolic health, and carnivore protocols. But just to drop her credentials here real quick as a refresher, she holds a PhD in exercise physiology and nutrition from the University of Miami. She's a licensed dietitian and certified personal trainer and an American College of Sports Medicine certified exercise physiologist. Today is going to be a little bit different. Recently, Dr. Zaldivar's messaging took a little bit of a turn as she's openly discussed stepping away from the carnivore diet and shifting into a new paradigm of metabolic optimization. So today we're going to explore the whys, the hows, and what she's implementing now for herself and her clients in regards to advanced protocols, baseline dopamine, muscle building, and long-term metabolic resilience. So Dr. Sarah Zaldivar, it's great to have you back on. I'm really, really excited for this one, to be honest with you.
Likewise. Thank you so much, Max. We had so much fun last time talking about baseline dopamine. It's my favorite topic. And I feel like this is also within that same vein because reintroducing carbs, turns out, can raise your baseline dopamine and your dopamine tone, not just the baseline, but actually the production of dopamine even better. So I'm
Interesting.
excited.
Well,
Yep.
I'm excited to get into all that, and maybe just to jump right into it here. If the guests want any sort of like your background, they can go back to episode 5 and listen to that here. But I
Yep.
kind of wanted to just jump right into things
Yep.
because I have been following a lot of your content. I very much appreciate all of the information you give out on Instagram and YouTube. And I would say you were one of the more vocal advocates for carnivore, for sure. What made you say it's time to give carnivore a break?
Yeah. So my main focus is not so much carnivore, it's more so raising baseline dopamine. That's the thing that I'm very passionate about. That's what I did my PhD at the University of Miami in, is like,
Mhm.
how can we use exercise? And back then, I didn't know the physiology of how exercise was going to affect cravings and remove cravings for sugar and chocolate. But via my dissertation, I learned all about neurotransmitters, and everything ends in dopamine, basically all roads lead to dopamine when we're talking about cravings and addictions to sugar or chocolate or any kind of drug, really.
Mm.
So that has always been my focus. I've always been very interested in any and all the ways to raise dopamine and maximize brain function. And so it was only natural that when I realized that actually, if you don't have insulin resistance anymore, or if you've reversed it, at that point, are we still gaining a benefit from keto and carnivore diets?
Mm.
And that was the biggest kind of shift that I made first in me and then in my clients. And yeah, I mean, the results speak for themselves for sure. Like you add more muscle, which raises baseline dopamine and dopamine tone more. You have more energy. You lower your body weight set point, whichever way you look at it, all the things that keto and specifically carnivore can help with doing it in the way that we're going to talk about can achieve the same results and possibly to a much, much higher level because it is in a dose dependent manner
Mm.
with your fitness level, which carbohydrates are going to allow you to push that higher and higher.
Interesting. So you weren't necessarily, and maybe you were, I don't know yet, that's why I'm gonna ask. Were you running into any issues at all with carnivore in regards to like what specifically prompted the change? Was it just specifically because you were so focused on dopamine,
Yeah.
maximizing baseline dopamine that you said, okay, I'm gonna give carnivore a break and try something else? Or
Yeah.
I was curious if you were running into any issues, maybe I wouldn't say like weight loss plateaus, but maybe like any sort of imbalances in regards to electrolytes, sleep issues. I was just curious to see if there were anything else, physiology-wise that was
Yeah.
creating you to move away.
It wasn't the insomnia, it wasn't any electrolyte imbalance. It was more so plateauing in my fitness and my physique, which
Interesting.
to lower your body weight set point even more, you actually have to train even harder. You know, you have to raise the intensity. And that's when you start not recovering fast enough. That's where the mental clarity, the energy, the amazing benefits you first discover on keto and then carnivore, all of a sudden now they're working against you because you're just not recovering fast enough.
Interesting. Okay, so basically the main reason why you shifted was to get more of a, let's call it like muscle building slash performance increase by adding in carbohydrate.
Exactly, exactly, which is gonna raise your baseline dopamine even more, and it did, and it's gonna lower your body weight set point even more, which it also did.
Gotcha. So, okay,
Yeah,
well, let's dive deeper into this because I mean, obviously, I'm a huge workout guy, performance guy. So and I play around with carbs. Like I am the low carb consultant on Instagram. I'm not the no carb consultant,
right,
right? So I leverage carbohydrates very strategically throughout the week before workouts or on certain days of training
right.
to maximize what I'm doing in the gym, but I think I might learn something here from you. So, let's talk about so what just so I know, what were some of the performance or athletic or muscle building goals that you had that carnivore was basically holding you back from?
I just could not push through to a higher running. I mean, you could, it's just gonna take way longer, and it's going your mental health is gonna suffer,
Mm.
and I cannot afford that to happen because 'cause I'm seeing clients, I'm researching, I'm doing podcasts, I'm doing all those things, so I cannot afford to.
Yeah, you gotta talk to me, and I need you all here for this.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, it just it's just very, very difficult. That's why you don't see elite athletes that are doing strict carnivore, maybe like an outlier or two, but as a general population, they don't really exist, right? For a reason.
Well, I had some questions on this because the one athlete that comes to mind, and I had a question around this overarching subject of when to bring in carbohydrates and for what specific athletic endeavors it makes sense to. So I had on, like for instance, Alex McDonald. He's the Australian guy. He
Yeah.
ran 5 marathons in 5 days, completely fasted,
Yeah.
using just his body fat as a fuel source.
Yeah.
And I think endurance is a little bit different than building muscle, right? Like if you're in the gym and you are trying to add on a specific amount of muscle mass, I do think, and like we see this with elite bodybuilders, like you need carbohydrates, right?
Yeah.
Because like carbohydrates can increase insulin a little bit. Insulin can be very anabolic. It can help you
Yeah.
to add on muscle mass. Now, when you're doing
Yeah.
like an intense endurance exercise or maybe high rocks, it's more cardiovascularly driven. You could almost argue that maybe, and the funny thing here is like everyone used to say, if you're gonna run a marathon, you need carbs, you need carbs, you need carbs. I honestly think it's almost like the flip side. Like, if you're gonna do in a long
Exactly.
endurance rate, you can almost go off your body fat as a fuel source. But if you
Yep.
were trying to add muscle, push your
Yep.
muscles to failure,
Yep.
right? Then that's where it might make sense to bring in some carbohydrate because I think we can all agree, like when I don't have carbs in my body and
Yeah.
I'm going into the gym to work out, I feel flat. Like, yes, everyone says you can add in more salt, add in more water,
Yeah.
but my workouts do feel flat when I'm on no carb. Like, I can run just fine, and that's all good. But from a strength standpoint,
Mhm.
I feel flat. So I guess here's my question then. So, are you finding that adding in carbs for certain let's say certain exercises, whether endurance or like weightlifting, carbs
Yeah.
can be beneficial for one more than the other?
If your main goal is to strengthen the brain and the body, to raise your baseline dopamine and serotonin and norepinephrine, and at the same time, be the leanest, no visceral body fat, no insulin resistance, better gut health, optimal hormones, more muscle, the muscle, the organ of longevity. It's all about the intensity. So
Mm,
I generally never recommend marathons, right?
okay.
If you want to be a peak performer, if you want to win at life, if you want your brain to be firing on all cylinders, if you want to look and feel amazing in your body and have a healthy body, The marathons aren't gonna get you there. This
I would
doesn't mean
agree.
only do sprinting. You still wanna get that mileage, because if you're just sprinting for a total of 1 mile a week, that's not gonna get you there. You still want the sprints, you still want the strength training, but you also want the mileage, but not to the point where you're doing marathons and half marathons.
Okay,
So
got it.
whichever way you look at it, it is the intensity. Whichever way you look at it, it is the carbs.
Interesting. Okay, so what would you say then are the circumstances or the signs that someone should modify or potentially exit a carnivore diet?
Well, there are, I mean, so many indications. Oftentimes, I would say the bulk of, like, the most common reason would be people just they lose the initial weight, right? And then they plateau because the metabolism adapted. And the only way you can offset the metabolism from adapting and drop your body weight set point even further is to put on muscle and train with intensity. And that's when they run into the issues because it's hard for them to train with intensity. So that would be the most common probably thing, the most common reason clients maybe see me or are interested in that. Um, every single thing you can think about. I mean, gut motility, if you have gut issues, food sensitivities that aren't healing, you can actually see a leaky gut to a higher degree with higher levels of fitness, right? Because that's going to boost your microbiome diversity. That's going to increase the number of the tight junctions, those proteins that seal the gut even more, right? And it's like a dose dependent relationship. That's the thing with keto and carnivore. They give you a little bit of healing in terms of mainly like insulin resistance, and then carnivore, you have like food sensitivities, right? Because most people have a lot of leaky gut. But then you're capped. So where do you go from there? You're still aging, you're still exposed to environmental toxins, you're still exposed to EMFs, right?
Yes.
So that all those things are still going to lead to leaky gut, and the blood brain barrier becomes leaky, just like it correlates with leaky gut. The more leaky gut you have, the more blood brain barrier leakiness you also have. So sure, you can get a little bit of healing, sealing the gut, but then you're stuck and you can't push it above and beyond what is necessary to handle the onslaughts and the attacks from the modern lifestyle.
Interesting. Interesting. So, what do you because I've read some of the comments and obviously you've got the carnivore people, jumping in and saying, "Oh, I could never like add in carbs or whatever."
Hmm.
Is it maybe and I've got a question on this. For the people that go carnivore or ketogenic and they start realizing, because I do still feel like carnivore is an exceptional tool, but that's what I think it is. I think it's a
True.
tool, right? I
Exactly.
think ketogenic's a tool. I think all these different diet variations are tools.
Likewise.
Fasting, OMAD, intermittent fasting. These are all these different eating frequencies. They're all tools in my opinion.
Agreed.
But what about some of the people that are in the comments saying, "Well, I can never add in carbs. I went keto and carnivore and I feel amazing." Do
Yeah.
you think it's probably because is there maybe because there's a lack of exercise there and their body doesn't even need to use the carbs yet? Could that be going on? Like, say for instance, like Nancy, who's, 50, 60 years old, she's not very active. Maybe she goes on walks, but keto or carnivore can work for her from a
Right.
healing perspective because she's just not exercising with a level intensity that even necessitates bringing carbs in. Is that a thing?
It's that. It's people who don't, either they don't have as much demands in their life because they don't have it, or they don't choose to impose those demands on themselves. Not everybody wants to put on muscle. I think that's a huge mistake because it is the organ of longevity. But
Agree.
if you're not aiming to put on the muscle and maximize that, then yeah, you're not going to run into that. It's really about kind of like being okay with just that versus wanting more. That's the difference.
Gotcha. Okay. So I think we can all agree. I mean, pretty much every health expert on the internet is saying what you just said. Muscle is the organ of longevity.
Yeah.
Like I 100% agree, and we should always be striving to add more muscle. So what you're saying here is
Right.
if we're striving to add more muscle and we're on a carnivore diet, we're going to be basically limited to the amount of muscle we can potentially build.
Yeah, you're just going to suffer way, way more than necessary to be able to have that muscle prevent injuries and recover in time so that you don't have injuries. You're just going to constantly be limited, you know?
And why would that be though? Even if the protein is high, let's say like you're still eating like, for instance, myself, like if I'm eating 200 grams of protein a day and the fat is at a certain amount to at least like offer a fuel source.
Yeah.
Is there a reason why you would say that I should be adding in carbs if I want to get to that next level of athletic performance or muscle building? Like for someone that's, I guess, a more seasoned veteran workout exercise push person that's pushing the limits,
Yeah.
right? Trying to increase weight or poundage on a daily, weekly basis, whatever the case is.
Yeah.
Why would I want to bring in carbs? Because they're going to help me recover, or because they're going to help fuel the workout?
All the above. And they're gonna help the central nervous system recover faster as well, right? It's going to help the amino acids to be able, like tyrosine and tryptophan, to be able to cross the blood-brain barrier where they can be converted into dopamine and serotonin. It's going to increase the enzymes that allow that conversion from the precursors to dopamine, serotonin, norepinephrine. All those things require an insulin spike. Without that, instead of getting there super fast, it might take you 10 years, for example. You might be injured along the way a lot more,
Mm,
you know, because you're not recovering in time. So there is that aspect. Then there's the aspect of the electrolyte imbalances and the cramps and the insomnia, which almost probably every single client I've ever worked with, especially as we hit their target weight and they're lean, they run into that issue. It's
interesting.
so common. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
So just to wrap this portion up here, because now I want to switch over to like what you started implementing for yourself, maybe what you're implementing to clients, what your day to day looks like, what carbs, like how did you start implementing carbs? Did you just go like crazy on them, or did you have specific carbs? I want to get into that. But it sounds like to me, just to wrap this portion up, that for you to hit the type of body composition goals that you had for yourself, carnivore was not allowing you to do that, and you had to bring in carbs. That's a nice way to wrap that up, correct?
Yep, yeah, because to push the body weight set point even further down, the rate limiting factor for me was the brain performance because I have a very busy day. I do podcasts, I do like a lot of cognitive demands, right? And lots of deep science. And so all those things utilize a lot of brain power. And so that was probably, I would say, the biggest thing for me.
Okay, very
Yeah.
cool. So let's get into like what you started to try first. So when you made the decision, like, okay, we're going to bring carbs back in,
Yeah.
what carbs did you try? Was it rice, potatoes? Like, I was
I
curious to
haven't
see
done
what.
potatoes, yeah. So, yeah, I mean, I think I went all in right away, like, I didn't, taper or anything, did white rice, and I show a lot on my Instagram. Um, beans, pinto beans apparently are something that I really enjoy.
Really?
Yes. Popcorn, corn, I mean, everything, fruits,
Okay.
a little bit of veggies here and there, like, maybe yeah, but not as much.
Was there anything in particular that, maybe you were wary of trying, then you tried it and you got like a weird
Reaction?
reaction, intestinal distress, or any of that? Like, if any specific carbs, like you mentioned the beans, I would
Yeah.
imagine beans, if you
This is
hadn't
the
had beans in a long time, they might, you know,
exactly.
yeah,
Yes, for sure, I probably had a day or 2 where you can feel like, "Oh, okay, I need to regrow the probiotics that I starved,
sure.
doing no fiber, no plant foods for such a long time." But I would say I was shocked at how seamless it was literally, like, maybe a day or 2. Like, you would think and I wouldn't recommend that for most people. I think most people for me, the working out helps my microbiome diversity, and
Mm,
I think that's why I was it was very quick for me to introduce those foods. If you're not working out and you don't have that gut motility from the workouts and the, leaky gut sealing from the workouts and all that stuff, if you're not doing that, you're probably gonna not have this easy transition, by adding huge amounts or like very high amounts of FODMAP foods that are, things like beans and corn and broccoli. I don't really don't care for it. So I haven't even tried, but that's like don't introduce broccoli on day 1.
Gotcha. Okay,
Yeah,
understood. And so what does the day-to-day look like now in terms of your training? When are you timing the carbs? Like, for instance, are you eating,
great
and I'm sure I
question.
asked you this question when we did episode 5
Yeah,
months ago, and it's obviously it was going to be a different answer because you were more carnivore then. But now when you're adding in carbs in,
yeah.
like, when do you bring in the carbs? Do you do, pre-workout carbs, post-workout carbs? Can you kinda walk me through
Yes.
the day-to-day in which, like, how you're eating and then, like, if you're timing them around workouts?
I do. I do make I'm it's funny. I used to always work out fasted and now I make sure I have some carbs and protein in me. At the very least some carbs, but ideally carbs and proteins in me before my first workout because then you get a much better performance, right? And that's really what I'm after. Keeping my body weight set point low and driving it lower and raising baseline dopamine, serotonin, all this stuff. And that only happens with better and better and better performances with your sessions. And so I don't want any session to be just like, half-assed just because I didn't have the energy to do it. So yeah, usually you have to see how much muscle mass you have. You have to see your fitness level. You have to see all those things factor in when we decide exactly the grams of carbs that you would want to have, right? If you want to have just 20 grams, or usually it's 40 grams, 30 to 40 grams pre-workout, and the same post-workout. So, but that has to depend on the intensity of your workouts and how much muscle mass you have, right? Those are the
Got
things
it.
that determine that you don't spill over and have high blood glucose, for example, for too long.
Gotcha. So it would probably make sense for someone to maybe do a DEXA, get a good sense of their body composition, how much lean
Yes.
muscle mass they have, and then obviously, like you said, the workout intensity along
Yes.
with the muscle mass they have is going to dictate, okay, this is how many carbohydrates you need pre-workout. This is how many carbohydrates you need post-workout. Don't go over that limit or else we're going to see insulin fluctuations or blood sugar fluctuations, correct? And that's what's
Exactly.
going to keep things stable, but you can use the carbohydrates as a fuel source without getting metabolically crazy.
Perfect. Well said.
Interesting. Okay, so I got to be honest, I learned a lot here because um and I always had this feeling about, you know, people going on the carnivore diet and not working out, you know what I mean? Like and because obviously, I think if you take someone who is untrained, like
Yeah.
Nancy, she's 60 years old, you know, she
Yeah.
doesn't do anything,
Yeah.
and even and if she's eaten a standard American diet and she goes like full fat, like a high fat carnivore diet with
Yeah.
protein in there, she's probably going to, by removing carbohydrates, drop her insulin, drop some body weight, especially just getting off of like a standard American diet, getting processed foods. She's going to lose weight. Like
Yeah.
Nancy's going to lose weight.
And she's gonna lose muscle though at the same time, right? Because if you're not actively doing it the right way and actually, building muscle and doing the workouts to drop your body weight set point sustainably, you're gonna drop your body weight set point to a certain extent and then you're gonna be stuck here because you're
Even if
gonna
there's
need.
protein, even if there's enough protein in her diet, like if she goes like a high protein, if she goes like a higher protein or higher fat diet, but she brings the carbs all the way down, could she still lose muscle even though that there's
Oh yeah.
a higher amount of
Oh,
protein
yeah,
in the diet?
totally, totally. I lost muscle when I did strict carnivore. Yeah, for sure. You're never gonna be able to hang on to enough muscle when you're not having carbs. It's very difficult to lose a pound of body fat without some amount of muscle being lost, right? Especially if you're not working out. Now, if you're
Mm.
newbie, you never worked out and you start working out and you're doing the keto or the carnivore, that could happen where you can build muscle and still lose body fat and drop your body weight set point. But again, you're gonna hit a plateau rather quickly. Only this is why keto and carnivore works so great for people who have like 50 to 100 pounds
Of
of
course.
weight to lose, right? It's like that's great because you don't have a lot of muscle loss at those numbers. But as you get to if you really want those last 20 to or 10, 20, 25 pounds, this is where people get stuck for years.
Yeah, and that's really interesting. What do you say? Okay, because are you familiar with Coach Bronson Dans?
Yeah, we filmed the Carnivore the first Carnivore documentary or TV show, whatever you wanna call it, in Costa Rica. Yeah, he was there.
Yeah,
He's
yeah,
great.
yeah, he's great, he's
Yeah.
great, and he was actually so now I think you're gonna be at this point, you're gonna be episode 30 something, so we've done, like,
Okay.
30 something episodes.
Yay, congrats.
You were episode 5 originally, he was episode 1.
Nice. Oh,
He
wow.
was
Okay.
episode 1, but I can hear him literally losing his shit, like, around this conversation because
Really? I
for
didn't
sure.
know. Oh, shit.
For sure, because he's a big CrossFit guy, he's a big workout exercise guy, but he is a zero carb guy. He's like high fat, high protein, probably more high fat.
Yeah.
Huge ketogenic athlete though. And so I guess the reason why I even brought him up was because I can just and the reason why he came up into my mind was because he was my very first episode and
Don't
I
come
could see
after me, Bronson.
I can see him watching this saying, "No, go," like, just going absolutely crazy. But I guess my question here and why I'm even bringing this up is because for some of the people like Bronson, who is a high intensity CrossFit guy, lifting heavy, and he's a carnivore athlete,
Yeah.
what would you say to someone like that that might come in here, hear this conversation, say, This is completely wrong." I was curious to see like what you
Yeah.
would say to
I
that.
mean, you could still do it, you just have to do artificial sweeteners and electrolytes, and I just don't wanna put that stuff in my body, like, that's for me. I could obviously supplement with more electrolytes but they all come with artificial sweeteners. They all come with artificial flavors. And if they don't, it's really harsh to like down that kind of stuff. And then you need the organ meats. And I just don't think that anything that babies intuitively hate, like organ meats, are maybe the most optimal thing that that we should be having, right? It's like I love like with the carnivore and I bought into that for a while where it's like, oh, they show you the little baby eating broccoli and spits it out. Well, give him liver. Let's see if the baby spits out the liver or not, right?
Yeah,
There's that. But it's definitely not for the majority of the population. The thing is, you could you could do just fine, but how much better could you do? How much more muscle could you get? How much more energy and and
mm,
and and mental clarity could you have? You'll never know unless you try. And I think he has IBS and that's why it's just so much easier to just not try to. But why not try to seal the leaky gut and figure out, okay, well maybe there's so much we can do to heal the gut. Yeah, I know it takes a little bit more work. I get it. But anything that is gonna give you more results, there's a little bit more work involved in it, It's like carnivore is very great for people who don't have a lot, and I'm not talking about Coach Bronson, don't come after
sure.
me. But if somebody doesn't have a lot of scientific background or, knowledge or the interest to learn, yeah, carnivore is like a quick Band-Aid. Great. Because to seal the gut and optimize hormones and all that kind of stuff, you have to start learning a lot more of how to be able to do that, right? When we reintroduce fiber and we reintroduce carbohydrates, right? Because if you have leaky gut and all of a sudden you start, or SIBO or candida or whatever, right? SIBO is so common. You start having, it's like, oh, okay, everybody's introducing carbs. Let me go and introduce corn. You know, like you have to understand what you're doing. So it takes a lot more knowledge about human physiology to be able to have your cake and eat it too, basically.
Sure. So what you're saying here basically, and not using Bronson here as an example, maybe kind of using him as an example, because I know you like when I interviewed him, and like you just were alluding to, he did have some IBS issues that carnivore helped significantly, and it basically made his life so much better.
Yeah. Kind of like
But it,
Dr. Kiltz, right? Dr. Kiltz, that's
yeah,
why he did carnivore for decades. And funnily enough, after I started sharing about this other route, Dr. Kills tell us, are you watching my videos? He started introducing potatoes, right? And things like that because he still had colitis and still having increases in markers of heart disease. One of my followers told me that. Did you hear about that? So I had to go and check out, okay, what's going on? And so
I
yeah,
heard
like
about that too.
even if you do have IBS, you're still aging. So yes,
Yeah,
it's so much easier mentally to just, oh, easy fix. What's going to happen though as the aging process takes hold and insulin resistance starts happening more and more with aging and leaky gut starts happening even more with aging? Why not learn the basics now so that you're well prepared for that? So that you understand what's going on, so that you don't have to learn all these lessons at 70.
Gotcha.
You know what I
That
mean?
makes sense. Yep, 100%. And real quick, maybe just going back to my, Coach Bronson example. So what you're saying here is, even though carnivore helped him heal a lot of his IBS, from an athletic standpoint, muscle building standpoint, he might not be able to, from what you're saying is, he might not be able to recognize the full potential of his muscle building or athletic performance
Or
if he
brain
never,
function.
or brain function, if he decides to just stay
Yeah,
where he's at on carnivore, and
yeah,
if he doesn't bring in carbs. Is that what you're basically
exactly.
saying? Interesting.
Exactly. Exactly. I know I'm giving
Okay.
people more homework to do because there's more troubleshooting. You have to understand, okay, what are the foods that are high FODMAP? What are the foods that are low FODMAP? Da, 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 like there's so much. But, if you know what you're doing, it's a much, much better life, energy, health, brain function, everything.
Interesting. So I wanted to switch over into dopamine because obviously I know that's what you specialize in, brain function, dopamine. And it sounds like to me this was one of the main reasons why you started bringing carbs back in. So let's maybe dive into that a little bit deeper because I know you brought that up briefly at the very beginning when you said this is one of the main reasons why you were switching over to carbs.
Yeah.
Like so what role in regards to like baseline dopamine, metabolic flexibility and recovery, like what role does does this all play in this new equation basically with bringing carbs back in? Like how do carbs impact
Praise.
those elements?
Right. Well, the quickest way obviously is just your workouts are going to be a lot better, stronger, and you're going to recover faster. So you'll be able to have more training sessions and you won't feel so depleted after you are training. And so if you're recovering faster and faster and faster, you're going to train hard, more often and you're going to get to your goals faster and faster, right? So there's that, and obviously how quickly you can run and how much weight you can lift correlate to your dopamine levels, norepinephrine levels, and serotonin levels, and all the other brain chemicals, right? So that's like the biggest lever here that we want to get to as quickly as possible. But then there's more, there's the actual brain's ability to convert the precursors, the amino acids, into the dopamine, norepinephrine, and the serotonin. And also just for those proteins and the amino acids that you're eating to be able to cross into your brain, right? The blood-brain barrier opens up more and allows more of those amino acids to cross over way more efficiently in the presence of insulin. Because again, it's like an anabolic. It's helping build your body, not just your muscles, but also your brain and every cell. It like builds things. As long as you're not again spilling over. This is why it's really important to know what you're doing, to know what is your tolerance level for that. So, yeah, crossing the blood-brain barrier, increasing the speed of the enzymes and the efficiency of the enzymes are just significantly increased when you have some carbs and the insulin spike that they trigger. That's how you allow those enzymes to start working at a much, much higher level. There's a stark difference in how quickly they work when there is an insulin spike versus when there isn't. So that's another major thing when it comes to optimizing for brain function, which is gonna, funnily enough, we thought for a very, very long time is that we're gonna have cravings, right? If we do touch a piece of fruit or if we do touch like rice or whatever. And it's
Yeah.
actually the complete opposite because when you have optimal levels of dopamine, serotonin, norepinephrine, acetylcholine, all of the brain chemicals, when you have optimal levels of those, especially dopamine is probably the biggest player in this, you had just have no cravings whatsoever, and I can attest to that for months now, which is definitely something that I was not expecting. It was like, well, maybe, maybe, I even wrote a whole guide on the, being carb sober. Don't touch a carb and don't touch fruits. And yeah, it's actually the complete opposite.
Yeah. Okay. So this is, I want to pause here on this one because I can hear a lot of people that have food addiction issues, especially around certain foods, carbohydrates, sugar, them being very reluctant to want to bring in carbohydrates. For
They
instance, like,
should be because they're not fit enough just yet, right? You want to raise baseline dopamine. The whole idea is to raise baseline dopamine. A lot of people who have been living that lifestyle, afraid of eating a piece of fruit, I can guarantee you they have almost no levels of fitness to speak of. They probably do a Pilates class and that's their workout or a group class. And I feel like I saw it's like, yeah, you have no idea where you need to be to really have like complete mastery over this.
interesting. Okay, so this kind of goes back to what we were saying earlier, and so this is crazy. So basically what you're saying is for the people that are eating carnivore and they're so very reluctant to touch carbohydrates or sugar because they feel like they're just going to binge out. It's
Because they will.
probably because
Yeah.
they will, but it's
Yes.
because they don't have a baseline level of fitness,
Yes.
and because of where their dopamine's at, as well as a lot of other markers, th if they're working out, they're basically gonna have the restraint to
Yes.
be able to mitigate any sort of binge eating episode. Is that what you're saying? It's because basically they don't work out. That's what I'm getting.
Exactly. Their baseline dopamine is so low that the only way they can have some level of control without binging all the time is just not trigger it in any way or shape or form. But then you end up living life from a fear based perspective and everything is triggering and you're afraid of everything in a world that's obsessed with carbohydrates and drug foods and social media is a drug. I mean, and it's never gonna stop. Once the human population has acquired a taste for that level of stimulation, they're gonna wanna keep working towards it. So it's never gonna go away. So you might as well adapt. Kind
And
of
the
like
way
what
that
Charles
you adapt is you lift weights intensely and work out.
Exactly. That's like what Charles Darwin, my favorite quote, right? It is not the smartest or the fastest of the species that survives. It is that which is most adaptable to change. And carnivores are a group of people that are very resistant to adaptation. That's the problem.
Mm, that is a bar right there. Interesting. Okay. All right. That answers that. Okay, so I want to get into like how we are implementing this with clients. So how do you tailor this new protocol for clients when the goal becomes optimization, muscle building, increasing fitness rather than like
Yeah.
healing, which would be the old carnivore
Right.
way to say it.
Right. And I'm not saying they don't heal.
Yeah,
I have clients that I'm like, no, you need to be right now. You need to be carnivore. Like
really.
it's a tool, right? I'm not anti carnivore. I just I know what it can do and where our limitations are, right? And
Hmm.
so you use it for its benefits until we can go beyond its limitations and push further. But sometimes like if you cannot work out and you just don't have muscle, I can't give you carbs, right? And you have type 2 diabetes. Like, no, don't touch a carb. Let's reverse your insulin resistance first. So that again, like you have to learn where to use it, for how long to use it, and when to stop and see the signs. So with a lot of my clients, a lot of them obviously can work out, and just thyroid hormone is probably the first thing that comes back online. They stop losing hair. That's another major thing, and they have more energy, no more cravings, and as we're building muscle, even if they binge every once in a while, it's like it's funny. If I had that back in the day, I would blow up immediately, and now it's like the body just sucks all those calories in and now they actually put on even more muscle the week after and drop their body weight set point even lower. It's like an investment in your metabolism in your body. So, but we still have to pay attention because a lot of people may come from a carnivore background and so they may have starved their probiotics. So we have to slowly regrow that, right? And slowly increase the microbiome diversity, and figure out, okay, what can we do right now, and what is the percent increment that we can increase that by until eventually leaky gut is completely sealed and hormones are optimized and all that stuff. And oftentimes you can really have way, way more variety in your diet, way more nutrients that you can ingest, the more you do it this way.
You mentioned thyroid, so I was curious, like, what maybe besides thyroid what other lab markers or maybe even performance metrics would you say are red flags that can indicate like a change should be made? Like we should be moving from
Yeah.
strict carnivore to adding carbs.
Yeah, just are you not recovering well? Are you losing hair? Nails are brittle? Are you getting all kinds of, hormonal issues, heart palpitations, insomnia is so common, by the way. Especially postmenopausal women, as you know, it's just I see way more women. I do have male clients, but I see way more women, and seems like it happens a lot more as well, especially as they get older. Not being able to sleep or not wake up in the middle of the night. Um, no energy, depression.
What would you say? Because I can hear the carnivore enthusiasts in my ears saying, well, you need to add more fat. You add more fat.
Yeah, I mean, just go and read the comments underneath all of those high fat. Just read the comments and you'll
Well, they're
see.
all gaining weight. That's the
Everybody,
big the yeah,
everybody's gaining weight.
that's the big thing right now is, the high fat carnivore people are,
Yeah,
they're adding fat because they're healing a certain thing like thyroid, whatever the case is,
yeah.
gut, but they're also gaining weight.
Yeah, yeah, because you can heal autoimmunity if you have Hashimoto's because you're reacting to you have
Mhm.
leaky gut, right? Sure, you remove anything that's triggering, you're gonna feel like your thyroid is gonna improve up to a certain point, right? And then you're stuck. This is why it's just so much better to do the research and learn ahead of time so that you don't have to do all this learning after 15 years of carnivore and now all of a sudden it stops working, right? Because aging process is taking hold, you have even more leaky gut, and now what used to work,
Yeah,
like why not just fix it? Yeah, I know it's a little more work front loading it, but then you have some much better quality of life, way more strength, physical and mental. Isn't that what we all want,
100%.
right?
100%. I had a rapid fire question
Oh,
portion
okay.
of the episode that I wanted to get in
Okay.
here with
All
you.
right.
So, okay, so here we go. What's the one thing you discovered after quitting carnivore that you wish you'd known sooner?
Oh, that I was actually gonna lose body fat and build muscle and look even better so quickly. I was like, "Oh my gosh, 10 years of no carbs," 'cause I did keto for a long time, then I did carnivore, so it was, like, over a
So
decade.
you were basically 10 years basically low or zero carb.
Yeah, afraid of carbs and insulin spike.
Interesting. Out of curiosity,
Yeah,
when you started adding carbs back in,
yeah.
how long was it until you started to see maybe the body composition changes or the performance changes?
Immediate. I mean immediate, like
Like, what does it mean? Like a couple days, couple weeks,
no,
months?
like a couple weeks.
Okay.
Yeah, because I already was, like, training, right? So but now I could train. It's like I didn't need recovery anymore. I could do and I could hit PRs like crazy, right? 'Cause see, because here's how I figured it out, because I track everything, and there was a time where I really wanted to push the needle and lean out even more, and I tracked every single thing, and the calories in and the calories out, and then the amount of exercise, everything. And I'm like, I am creating this massive, massive calorie deficit. I don't even want to say the number out loud because people will have a heart attack if they knew how big. Like, there is no way you wouldn't be dropping weight like crazy.
Yeah.
And the weight wasn't changing
Interesting.
until I realized that the only thing that moves the needle for me is hitting PRs because I'm always training, right? So the body adapts to a certain level of exercise. And so you have to always to push the needle and prevent metabolic slowdown. You have to keep getting stronger and faster. And I was like, well, it's very hard to do that without any carbs if I want to push the needle further.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. No, that makes sense. Um, do you think long-term carnivore is sustainable for some people, or do you think it was never meant to be permanent?
I mean, some people have to do it. Like they have very severe conditions or rare genetic mutations, or, you know, I think just like anything, you can make it work, but you would probably need some organ supplementation or consuming organ meat. Definitely not without organ supplements or organ consumption, right? I
Mhm.
don't know if you're not doing seafood, like Lion Diet or ribeye. I mean, omega-3s, there's just a wealth of evidence how powerful it is for lowering inflammation, improving mental health and mood. So, see whatever you can tolerate. The more nutrients you can get in you, the better, right? And just prevent any potential long-term deficiencies in those. And then yeah, you would have to, like, if you're gonna work out, then you would also probably have to increase a little bit the electrolyte consumption.
Mhm.
I mean, yeah, it's just infinitely harder, but it's totally doable. I don't want to discourage anybody if they're listening to this and they have to do it. Like, yeah, you can totally do it for sure.
Got it.
Yeah, but we don't know. We don't know. We don't have randomized control trials that are long term on strict carnivores for an extended. We don't know what happens. What we do know though is that there are certain tribes that are carnivores, like the Maasai and the Inuit.
Inuit, yeah.
You're right, but their cholesterol levels are very low because they're very physically active.
That's a good point.
So yes, maybe do what they're doing if you have to, but also ensure that you also try to move as much as they do to make sure your cholesterol doesn't go crazy.
Yeah, I mean, well, and they're basically, yeah, I mean, but they're basically like living outside, moving day to day. They're not like stuck in a normal like office
Exactly.
environment like we are sitting,
They're getting more vitamin D, that's for sure. So, make sure you're getting enough, make sure.
yeah. That no, that's interesting. It basically comes down to like lifting weights and pushing the needle, like from a performance and muscle building standpoint. Like
Yeah.
that's becoming more and more clear, which I think is very, very cool. When someone says carnivore healed me, but now I feel stuck, what do you tell them?
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's great. I'm glad you reversed insulin resistance. You allowed the gut to heal. And now it's time to progress and go further. And there's just a wealth of information, and there's hire help or do your own research, and it's not as easy as just eat meat and you'll feel amazing, right? Because they did that, they felt amazing, and now they're stuck, right? So now there's more work to be done, but we know so much and we know how to get you there. So reach out.
Yeah, maybe it's something where it's like, okay, meat healed me, carnivore healed me, I feel stuck. But now it's like, okay, now you need to start lifting weights and potentially think about adding on some muscle and then bringing in some carbohydrates to help keep pushing in the needle. That's basically, I think, what you're
Yeah.
saying here.
Exactly, exactly, and understand why is it that you felt great when you did carnivore, right? Was it insulin resistance reversal? Was it food sensitivities that you stopped eating? Like, you have to understand why that happened as well, so that we know how we can maintain and optimize your feel, like, so that you can keep moving forward and achieve bigger goals and still feel better and better and better without taking any steps backwards.
Got it. If you last question here, if you had to build the next evolution of the carnivore diet, what would it look like?
If I had to what? The next evolution of the
Build the next evolution, like, what like, basically, where do you think carnivore in your opinion,
Mm.
what do you think the carnivore looks like from here? Like, how would you continue on that story?
Yeah, exactly what we're talking about. Understand that there are different effects of different types of plant foods, which plant foods do what are the FODMAPs, like,
Yeah,
again, this is why people don't wanna hear this message because, like, "Why are you giving me homework?"
yeah.
Like, I get it. It's so much easier to just have one simple message, right? Um,
Well, that's what people want. I feel like that's why people go to the carnivore diet in the first place, and I've
yeah,
talked to other people about this. It's people want the magical diet that they don't really have to think about,
right.
like, they just wanna be able to eat meat, and again, the carnivore diet works, but I think people need to understand what I think you've been basically alluding to. It's like there's the aging process. Your body's getting older. Your
Yeah,
body's also constantly adapting to what you're currently doing. So if you're someone that's not very active and you're eating a carnivore diet, that diet's going to work until it doesn't. That's what's basically going to happen.
yeah.
Right. And so people need to get comfortable learning, being curious, experimenting, trying new things, and I think that's kinda what you're almost saying here.
Exactly. If you want
But
more,
people
you're
don't
gonna
wanna do that.
No,
That's what I'm
I
saying.
I know that's why carnivore blew up, right? So,
Yeah,
like, right away blew up because people wanna hear that message so desperately. We all do, I get it, like, I
yeah,
understand, I'm very empathetic. I kind of fell for it for a while, even with all my education, right? And it has a lot of tools, and I think a great thing that came from the carnivore movement is understanding that red meat is not gonna kill you. It's not like that,
Yeah.
right? And so that's good that we stopped vilifying whole foods, real whole foods that are ancestral that we ate, a lot more so than other foods, for sure, at least in certain periods of time, depending on the climate. Um,
Sure.
but we're not living the way our paleo ancestors live, right? The sheer amount of information our brains are exposed to, it's it's something like if you put like just in the beginning of the 1900s versus in 2025, the sheer number of data points that our brains have to process and take in and think about, it's insane. And so
Yeah.
wouldn't that drastically change the needs our brains have to be able to handle that load? It would make no sense that, the environment that we're living in is so crazy different than the environment that just 100 years ago, let alone paleo ancestors. It makes no sense to try and hang on to that.
Yeah, that's a really, really good point. Like, we as much as we wanna eat like our ancestors, the reality of the situation is we are not living like our ancestors, not
No,
even close.
no.
We're not even as not even close to as active as they are. We don't have to hunt our own food. We go to the store,
Yeah. We're not
we
getting
can get
vitamin
things
D. We're not
delivered.
living outside
Yeah,
anymore. We're not in contact with nature and soil where we're getting those soil-based organisms and
yeah.
get absorbed into our skin and populate our gut. Like, it's just a completely different life. So we should learn to adapt faster and faster, and stop resisting adaptation so much.
Well said, well said. Anything new coming up for you, Dr. Zaldivar? Like, anything new projects-wise you wanna, let the audience know about?
Yeah, I think I should revamp all like I'm working on how to lower your body weight set point guide where it delves into that, and how you can really lower your set point, build muscle, become more resilient, optimize your hormones, heal leaky gut, raise your baseline dopamine and serotonin and norepinephrine, all that stuff. Because all those things are critical elements of how you can lower body weight set point and also optimize for health and performance and brain function. And so, yeah, that's gonna be kind of like encompassing. It builds upon a lot of the guides that I already have, but it does it in a much different way right now when we introduce carbs and working out. I've always advocated for working out, but I feel like carbs and not shunning carbs like that and being afraid of them so much.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Where can people find you online, get in contact with you, all of that stuff?
Sure. So my website, drsarahzaldivar.com, my Instagram at dr.sarah with an H dot Zaldivar, and YouTube is just my name, Dr. Sarah Zaldivar.
Very good. Well, I appreciate your time, Dr. Zaldivar. This was freaking awesome. I feel like I learned a lot, to be honest with you. And it also kind of touched on a lot of things that I thought about that I knew to be true, but you basically confirmed a lot of things that I was thinking. So I really appreciate your time. And to all you guys listening to the Low Carb Consultant podcast, we'll catch you guys on the next one.
Yay. Thank you so much, Max. Thank you, everybody.
You got it.